Egypt, Turkey, Jordan, Iran and Iraq were all in attendance, along with Russia's Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov. Well, joining me live now to discuss is Broderick McDonald, Associate Fellow at King's College London. Welcome to you, Broderick. Very good to have you on the programme. The view from the United States, according to three officials, is that Damascus could fall. I know you have sources there on the ground. What are you hearing from them?
Hey, good evening. Thank you. The situation in Damascus right now is extremely tense. The shops have been closed all day. People are emergency buying food and keep staying close to their families, staying close to their homes, because nobody knows exactly what is happening next. But we do know that the regime has pulled back everything it's got to the capital. So they've taken troops from Deir ez-Zor, they've taken troops from the south, put everything around the Damascus outskirts, really trying to reinforce and really trying to hold on to what they have there and on the coast.
Talking about all of this, of course, the dynamics have shifted geopolitically very much in the past decade. Even in recent weeks, Russia and Iran, of course, very bogged down in their own affairs. What do you think the chances are now of them upping the ante, of trying to drive the rebels back and continue to support their ally?
I think it's too late. Iran and Russia were very slow getting started in this offensive. They failed to stop or really intervene seriously when the rebels took Aleppo, which is the second largest city in Syria. And while we've seen some engagement once the rebels made it to Hama and now to Homs, I think at this point, the momentum and the energy on the rebel side, not just from HTS and the SNA factions, but also from the south, is just too significant for any kind of serious external country to come in and really put a stop to that. Beyond that, we also see question marks as to whether or not Iran and Russia are willing or able to support their ally this time. They've propped up the Assad regime for years, but there's pretty clear indications that they're not able or willing to do it this time around.
If Damascus does fall and we see a regime on its way out, you were just mentioning there, speaking to Syrians on the ground who are anxious today. What do you think this does mean for civilians?
Spoken to a lot of Syrian friends and colleagues today, and I can say the overwhelming sense is a mixture of pleasure or happiness to see, the Assad regime, which has bombed, tortured, imprisoned Syrian civilians for 14 years since this conflict began, but also a serious sense of concern about what comes next. There are significant questions about Hayat al-Sham, HTS, which is leading the Northern Offensive. It's a designated group by the United Nations, the European Union, and others. And we don't know what the future of Syria will look like if this group either comes to power or plays a significant role in any coalition that takes over after this.
And the future of Assad as well, one might imagine. Authorities right now are saying that he remains in the country, but were he to leave, were he to flee, do you have any sense of where he might go? Countries, for example, which might be friendlier to him?
There's been rumors about Iran, perhaps Moscow, perhaps even the UAE. We know that there's been back-channel communications between all these countries over the last few days and last few hours. But at this point, Assad doesn't have many options. And there is also a chance that he will try to hold on or stay within the coastal region where he's always been strong. It's always been his traditional heartland around Latakia and Tartus. But we'll see. The next few days, next few hours for the Assad regime are critical. And I think that he's running out of options, both diplomatically, militarily, and politically.
I mean, just talking about those options there, you're saying that he's running out of them diplomatically. Do you think there is still any prospect for negotiations? And also, I want to ask you, to what extent do you think the US could still be invested compared to, say, a decade ago, when, of course, we are now awaiting a change in administration?
We've seen some desperate moves by the Assad regime in the last few hours, reaching out to allegedly US politicians and others in Europe, trying to negotiate some kind of a deal or a political settlement before things get even worse for them. But I think that the likelihood of this is extremely unlikely. well, President Trump, may be different than Biden, he also put out a statement today saying that the U.S. should leave Syria alone and not engage, not do anything with it. Not to mention the Trump administration will not come into power for a good month and a half yet. So we don't see many options for the Assad regime in Europe or in the U.S. And within the region, he is diplomatically isolated and opposed by Arabs and populations right across the Middle East. So it's difficult to see how any of these diplomatic efforts could make any difference at this point.
Broderick McDonald, Associate Fellow at King's College London. Very good to have your perspective. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.